The 7 levels of monsters. Explained.
Level 1.
Rubber suit rejects. Zool's discount cousins from those cheap 80s TV movies. You can see the zipper. You can always see the zipper. It's not a monster. It's a onesie having a bad night. The Troll Hunter knockoffs haunting Sci-Fi Channel at 2 a.m. CGI so unfinished it looks like the render got interrupted by a Windows update. Sharknado's Shark Tornado. A shark in a tornado. I want you to sit with the fact that someone pitched this in a meeting and other adults nodded. The Giant Claw from 1957. A bird monster so structurally insulting that 1957 audiences, a demographic famous for being polite, reportedly laughed it out of the theater. Deep dive worthy is this level. The Giant Claw is the Tier 1 origin story. The studio genuinely thought they had a monster movie. Test audiences saw the bird, a puppet with the aerodynamic grace of a folding lawn chair, and lost it. Legend has it, the laughter was so loud, the studio recut the trailers to hide the creature entirely, essentially running a marketing campaign for a monster movie that refused to show you the monster. That's not a movie, that's a hostage negotiation. Sharknado, on the other hand, didn't fail by accident. It failed on purpose, which almost gets it promoted, except the execution is still genuinely, chaotically bad. Just bad with intent. A shark-filled tornado hitting Los Angeles is not a monster with menace, it's a monster with a marketing team, and the film knows it. It's less movie and more meme with a runtime, which is exactly why it belongs at the bottom. Impressively bad execution is still bad execution, on purpose or not.
Level 2.
Camp icons. Killer clowns from outer space. Evil circus performers from space. Committed to the bit, with the intensity of a man defending his fantasy football picks. Chucky, 1988 vintage. A doll that should look like a Toys R Us return, but the cheapness is the character. It's giving possessed by evil. It's also giving possessed by a clearance aisle. The Toxic Avenger. Troma's entire personality is, we know this is ugly, and we dare you to look away. Tremors graboids. Giant worms that decided fear was optional and fun was mandatory. Our take. Chucky works because the production leaned into the doll animatronics craft instead of running from it. The puppeteering team built a genuinely unsettling range of expressions into 1.5 feet of plastic, and that specificity is why the cult stuck around for 6 sequels and a TV show. A killer doll should be goofy. Chucky is goofy and somehow still gets under your skin, like a clown who also knows where you live. Tremors earns its spot because the studio actually watched test audiences laugh with the graboids instead of at them, and instead of panicking, they leaned all the way in. That's rare. Most monsters that make you laugh get quietly buried. Tremors got a franchise. It figured out that fun and menace aren't opposites, they're roommates, and that's a genuinely underrated lesson in monster design.
Level 3.
Corporate creatures. The 2014 Godzilla's Mutos. Gorgeous rendering. The emotional resonance of a spreadsheet. The Kraken from the 2010 Clash of the Titans remake. Release the Kraken, sure, but also release my expectations, because there was nothing here. Rampage's monsters. Spectacle for the sake of spectacle. The cinematic equivalent of empty calories. The Uruk-hai grunts from Lord of the Rings. Technically flawless, narratively as replaceable as a Roomba filter. What makes these monsters good? The Mutos got roasted at release for being essentially faceless. Reviewers reached for that exact word, faceless, because these things had zero identity standing next to Godzilla, who is basically the Beyoncé of giant monsters. You put a corporate creature next to a cultural icon, and the corporate creature just evaporates. That's the whole tier in one movie. The Kraken remake invites the most damning comparison a monster can get, side by side with its own 1981 practical effects ancestor. The original Kraken was a guy in a suit with genuine texture and weight. The remake is pixels with a paycheck. It sparked a real, why did they even bother, discourse online. And honestly, fair. If your remake makes people miss stop motion, you've lost the argument before it started.
Level 4.
Flawed Titans. Jaws shark. Perfect in film 1. Then Jaws. The revenge happened. A sequel so unhinged the shark reportedly roars, with what I can only describe as personal vendetta energy. Aliens Xenomorph. A masterpiece of restraint in the original, then diluted across sequels until the mystery had the structural integrity of wet cardboard. Freddy Krueger, genuinely terrifying, until the sequels turned him into a stand-up comedian doing crowd work with a glove. The Thing's creature from 1982, flawless design, sabotaged by timing, because releasing your bleak body horror masterpiece the same summer as E.T. is like scheduling your funeral on someone's wedding day. Deep dive worthy. Giger and Ridley Scott built the xenomorph on a philosophy of restraint. Keep it hidden, keep it ambiguous, let the audience's imagination do the heavy lifting, because nothing you show is scarier than what you don't. The sequels took that philosophy, put it in an airlock, and blew it out into space. More xenomorphs, more exposition, more Queen lore, less dread. The creature didn't get worse. The franchise just wouldn't stop explaining the joke. Freddy Krueger's documented tonal arc is almost a case study. He starts as a genuine nightmare, methodically terrifying, and by the later sequels, he's cracking one-liners like he's auditioning for late night. Critics tracked the shift in real time. Horror icon slowly rebranding into horror mascot. Iconic either way, sure, but iconic and consistent are not the same trophy.
Level 5.
Almost immortal. Pennywise from the 2017 IT, commercially massive, critically loved, still chasing the multi-decade household name status of the older guard. The Babadook, a masterpiece of dread, adored by critics, but ask your non-horror watching relative who that is, and you'll get a blank stare. Pyramid Head from Silent Hill, a legend in gaming and horror circles, a mystery to literally everyone else. The Nun, aka Valak, box office numbers through the roof, critical respect nowhere to be found. Let's take a deep dive. Pennywise pulled staggering box office numbers and instantly reignited the clown phobia industry, but stack that against the sheer decades-long cultural saturation of the Tim Curry miniseries version, and you realize commercial success and cultural permanence are two completely different currencies. One is a great opening weekend. The other is being referenced in casual conversation 30 years later by people who've never even seen the movie. The Babadook, meanwhile, got the single weirdest crossover moment in horror history. A 2017 internet meme cycle accidentally rebranded him as a queer icon, and suddenly, a niche Australian horror film about grief was trending for reasons nobody could have scripted. It's proof that mainstream crossover can happen completely by accident, but accidental virality isn't the same as earned permanence, and that's exactly why he's still here and not a tier higher.
Level 6.
Borderline Goats, The Predator, genre-defining design, but the AVP era left a dent on the legacy that's honestly still healing. The Alien Queen from Aliens, near flawless in her own film, missing only the sustained franchise dominance of the true legends. Michael Myers, mythic, unstoppable, and yet the timeline has been rebooted so many times, even HE probably needs a flowchart to remember which sequel he's in. The Thing's creature, standalone, near perfect, missing only the sheer decade-spanning ubiquity of the very top tier. My favorites. Michael Myers' continuity is, and I say this with love, an absolute disaster. Multiple reboots have quietly deleted entire sequels from canon, retconned his sister, unretconned his sister, and reset the timeline enough times that Halloween 2018 is somehow both a sequel and a soft reboot, pretending several other sequels never happened. The Mask is eternal. The lore is a group chat where everyone's arguing. The Predator's dent comes from a very specific, very documented source, the Alien vs. Predator era. Both the critical reception and box office trajectory took a real hit trying to cram two separate mythologies into crossover popcorn content, and it left a measurable scuff on an otherwise flawless design legacy. Iconic mask, iconic dreadlocks, iconic click click click, permanently dented resume.
Level 7.
Goat status. Godzilla, from the original 1954 conception through 70-plus years of franchise dominance across multiple countries. Dracula, the Stoker and Lugosi archetype, so foundational, he's basically load-bearing for the entire genre. The Xenomorph's original H.R. Giger design, viewed in isolation from franchise baggage, a singular, unrepeated piece of biomechanical art. Frankenstein's monster, over 2 centuries deep, the original template for every man plays God story that came after. I'm not doing a deep dive segment here, Because at this level, deep diving feels almost redundant. You already know the story, and honestly, so do your parents, and so will your kids. Godzilla began as a direct atomic bomb allegory in post-war Japan, and somehow, 70 years later, is still finding new emotional register, from existential dread to full blockbuster spectacle, without ever losing what made him matter in the first place. That's not a franchise. That's a cultural institution wearing radioactive skin. And Frankenstein's monster has been culturally load-bearing since 1818. Before horror, as a genre even had a name, there was this. Every misunderstood creature, every who's the real monster twist, every sympathetic villain in the genre owes this one a royalty check it will never collect.